Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. This is truly my first major video featuring talking and an overall script flow, so I'm relatively new to this. If you clicked on the video, I'm willing to bet you're a younger artist or just an artist with not as much experience in the film world, wanting to create your own show. So first off, I'm not actually 15, I'm 20. The title may be a bit clickbaity, but not in the way that you might be thinking. My animated series did start development when I was 15, 5 years ago. Only now has the story evolved into something more suitable for a TV show. So I do apologize if I disappoint any 13 to 16-year-olds with high hopes of getting their own show made. But I'll tell you right now, to do this, you're going to need a pretty good source of income and a lot of spare time. So doing this in school probably wouldn't benefit you much anyway. Any kind of advice that I'd give you is if you do want to pursue a story, really sit on it for a couple of years. Make sure that it's something that you really like, not like a brand new hobby that you just learned. So, if you just got into, say, for example, the Supernatural a week ago, and you want to start your own series, really sit on that for at least a year and see if you still like supernatural related things before you dive into getting into a story and starting all that. So unfortunately, this video won't be really helpful to you guys unless you really just want to hear the story, and maybe it'll help you benefit for the future. So, I guess we can just start at the beginning. I'll probably have a time lapse up of some art, mainly while I talk about this and what I do, how I did it, things like that. And then, if needed, I'll edit some other things on the screen. Let's start from the beginning. In 2018, I began working on my first original series called Roswell. The comic followed three teenagers in the town of, obviously, Roswell, New Mexico, trying to live normal teenage lives when suddenly their simple lives get turned upside down by extraterrestrial anomalies. Back then, my art was far from amazing. And I'll put some on the screen here just so you can see what it kind of looked like back then. But that didn't stop me from pursuing my own series. As a young kid, especially when you're a teenager, I've noticed, at least, what I've been through, is that you can give up a lot. You're going to give up a lot, whether it's either people online saying they don't like your art, or you yourself don't like your art, or whatever it may be. There's a lot of times where you're going to give up, but it's important to keep going no matter what. That's how I've gotten to where I have been. I kept going no matter what people said, no matter what I thought for myself. If I didn't like something, I improved it. If other people didn't like something, when I was 15, I didn't listen to anybody. So I was kind of a jerk about it. But nowadays, I like to listen to people because, when you're creating a series, you need to listen to your audience. That's a pretty big important thing, is that the people who are consuming your media, who are watching this, who are dedicated fans, especially if they're pretty much paying your bills by watching your show, it's important to listen to what they want to keep them watching. Obviously passion projects are very important to the creator. Just like myself, I wouldn't change anything too vast just for the sake of viewership if I know it's going to detriment the story. But it's important to keep your audience happy, but don't push it too far where you're not happy. So there's that kind of thing. Now, on October 2nd, 2018, I believe it was, I posted a video titled Roswell, Episode 1, Hallway History. Okay. And although it's an incredibly dated video with little to no professionalism, it eventually led to this. And, after being fairly unhappy with the product, I went back to the drawing board. My skills at the time were unable to create the animated project I was looking for. 15-year-old me couldn't exactly afford an animator, an editor, or even voice actors spanning more than one episode. At least, ones with good quality mics and weren't 15 also. So I decided to go back to my roots as a Steven Universe artist and create a webcomic. I did that a lot back in the day in like 2016 to like 2018, those like 2 years, even before 2016, honestly, I would do a ton of Steven Universe comics. I was a huge fan as a kid, and they did pretty well back in the day. So basically, I took my knowledge of that, and there was a lot of copyright infringement involved, I feel like, when I created my first webcomic, but I started there. I took what I knew, and I started creating Roswell in this new kind of format. So, I began planning, I wrote a script, I started creating new designs for the main characters, started to establish a new timeline. Instead of it taking place on Halloween, it was going to be more so in February, like early year, kind of present day at the time, which was 2019. And, kind of like setting up a new set of events. I pretty quickly realized, however, that this project is, it takes more than one set of hands, especially if you're going to meet weekly deadlines like I was trying to do. So for the first time ever, I had sent out a call-out post looking for artists in similar spaces as myself to help draw Roswell. So, this was, 15-year-old me once again. This was like, hey, if you want to draw this, you can come on, thanks. You're not getting paid, though, so sorry. And that is where I met the first Roswell storyboarder, Noah. Okay, so Noah was the main artist who helped me bring Roswell to life in 2018, back all those years ago. I'll put up some of his boards from way back when on the screen here. It's very dated compared to what he can do now. He's a very talented artist. And we'll talk more about him later, but that's all you need to know for this next part. And on exactly midnight, New Year's night, I published the first episode of Roswell in its new and improved comic format, titled once again, Hallway History. Now, the episode was a fairly big hit for 2019 Instagram artist numbers anyway, and just like that, Roswell kind of took off. Noah and I began producing episodes left and right, some episodes taking only 1 day to complete. I remember specifically there was one night after I did episode 2, I stayed up the whole night and did episode 3. And I even had school the next day, I'm fairly sure. So I kind of just stayed up the whole night and produced it because it was just so fun to do. And I would write the scripts, I would bring it to Noah and be like, listen, can you draw this half? I'll draw this half, so on and so forth. And we kind of did that for 2 months, I think, because Roswell was a limited series. It was not supposed to last forever. I did have an ending in mind when I created the show, the comic. And, eventually the comic did meet its end as the story finished up. But wait, we got a sequel. Salem was my next comic in the same universe as Roswell. I decided to expand on the universe and start explaining the unknown in real life using in-universe reasons. So, Roswell was about aliens. Salem was obviously going to be about witches. Kind of trying to explain the unknown. That was my goal. And, Salem was a chance to take everything I had learned about Roswell and kind of push those limits. Episodes would now be worked on for a month, and eventually over the years became several months, jumped to 2023, present day. And although the art was getting better and better every day with more episodes that I produced, the series began to lose its audience because it would take so long to produce. With multiple hiatuses and breaks, I was kind of left wondering what to do. I loved this universe and I created and I loved to work on it, but it wasn't receiving the engagement I not only wanted, but needed. And at the time, I had recently quit my job of 2 years, meaning all of the funds that I was getting, to pay for stuff was coming from my art alone. So, commission work, things like that. And, if you don't have a very upright audience, I guess, a very popular audience, then you're not going to get a whole lot of commissions. So that, starving artist is a term that is really no joke. And, college never really worked out for me. I was never really a huge fan of school in the later years, so going to art school wasn't really something I wanted to do, let alone feel like I could do. Every animated showrunner I had ever seen went to Cal Arts or some other fancy kind of art school, and it kind of started to seem impossible to accomplish my dreams without, going into severe debt and moving across states, really. And And, at this point, I began to kind of lose hope in ever getting Roswell or any of my series, in that universe kind of into the medium I wanted, which was animation. Over the years, I improved, but I was losing my audience until June of 2023. Now, in the summer of 2023, I began to post art on TikTok to a pretty insane degree. I would post like sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. I have like hundreds of posts now, I'm pretty sure. Most of it was fan art, since a lot of my favorite shows as a kid were having resurgences. Like I mentioned earlier, Steven Universe, that was pretty big in the summer of this year. And so I would do fan fusions and things like that, and it really started to blow up, getting millions of views, millions of likes. In like a month, I think I reached like 50,000 followers almost. Finally I had the audience I needed and began getting income via TikTok for doing the art that I loved. So I was now at a point where I was really, really happy with the work I had been doing for art. But I still hadn't made my series. I'd done a lot of fan art, but it was really time to kind of really think of what I wanted to do next. And, pretty soon after, a longtime friend comes in, Zach. And Zach was a pretty crucial piece in creating Roswell. Without him, the series probably would have never become a reality, at least not so soon. Zach has always had a creative mind, but never had the skills to kind of put his ideas to paper. Very talented individual, but he was never, he never did art growing up, so he's not an artist or anything like that. So, one day Zach kind of came to me and he pitched the idea of us working together. And the first project we would attempt would be Roswell. Starting from my idea all the way back in 2018 and giving it new life. Add more depth, create new characters, make Roswell in the way I had always dreamed it would be, animated. Basically, I pretty much agreed. We created our own production company, Polaris Media, and we knew Roswell was going to be a huge team effort. And so I put all of my other stuff on pause. Basically, I canceled Salem, the sequel to Roswell, and it was a pretty well written comic at the very end, especially. But to do Roswell up until its form, I'm gonna have to redo all these characters anyway. I'd rather put Salem off for now, and then at a point after Roswell, if Roswell does well and if it's fun and I'm still loving it, I'd love to do Salem in an animated form just as well. And like I said, we knew it was going to be a huge team effort, so we began implementing our friends into it. They were also longtime fans of the work of Roswell. They had either read it or they knew a lot about it because it was obviously my passion. Pretty close best friends, Kyle and Dallas, were now with us on the writers team of Roswell. And this is kind of where you see the core people kind of come together to create Roswell into what it is in present day. And, with all these people, it was now the first step in creating our show, write the script. Now, with Zach's previous knowledge of film school, because he did go to film school for a few months, we began using Final Draft as our writing software, which is an industry standard. It's what most scriptwriters use, for screenplays and stuff. So if you want to sell a screenplay, you kind of have to have this. People aren't going to accept something like Google Docs. So, if you think that that's going to work, it will not. And if you want the computer version, let's hope you have some money saved up. And at the time, I had set up for the mobile version as well as the free trial on my computer because, as a startup production company, we had like no $200 to spend on one program. It's pretty outrageous. But I wrote my first draft of Roswell and it was like 11 pages, which in theory would total at about 11 minutes. But there was one major problem. It was boring. It was really, really boring. And it might sound crazy as it's not a big deal, whatever. It's not a major problem because it's just boring. So what? Well, if your first episode to a brand new series is boring, then just don't expect it to go anywhere. My time writing comics, although it helped me create, unique and interesting characters, it had me extremely used to the short format of like a 10-page episode. So, concepts that would work just fine in a comic just didn't translate well into full-blown media, let alone like 11 whole minutes. So, in comics, you could have somebody stand around in a locker room or in the hallway for a minute, like the old Roswell comic, for like 5 pages, and it can be engaging because you're looking at the art. It's very short. You cannot have them do the same thing for 11 whole minutes. So I went back at it again and again for like weeks on end. I had various opinions and input from not only all of my friends at Polaris, as well as some other friends outside of it. I also had fans of the original Roswell comic reach out, and they volunteered to test read the script for me. And with Zach's networking, we sought help from someone who had experience in the industry. This person worked on things like Family Guy, the recent Five Nights at Freddy's movie, Reinfeld, or is it Renfield? I don't know, something like that. It's a Nicolas Cage vampire movie. And she's been in like a ton of other really cool projects. It was really nice to have her input on the project. It was very welcomed. And she really helped me understand the industry standard format and taught me a lot in terms of screenplay writing. And, with Roswell's development now made public, because, at this point I was like, to the Salem fans, it's been very nice, but I'm going back to Roswell and we're kind of rebooting it in a sense. A longtime fan of the series, B, approached me and asked if we needed any help on the music side of things. And I, of course, immediately accepted their offer, because who doesn't want a fan of your own series who understands the characters and the story to an insane degree to message you 5 years later, make music for you? I mean, it was perfect. If you have someone, my favorite thing about working with people on this project that I've come to see is people who love the project as much as you. People who love something as much as you will put in their absolute effort into it. And it's so amazing to see someone love your creation so much. So it was really awesome to get B on the project. And at this point, Dallas did have to step away from Polaris. He's a college student. He was really busy with that. But Kyle, Zach, and I were still on our way to make Roswell a reality. So, 3 20-year-olds in a dream, we managed to finally craft a script we were really happy with. Sitting at now 22 pages, double the original runtime. It was time to do our second stage, and that was finding an animator. This was the part I had been looking forward to the most. Finally seeing my characters come to life in an animated format. I've been talking about since the beginning of the video. For the past 5 years, that's all I've wanted. And luckily it wasn't really hard to find an animator, as I had already been in contact with an artist whose animated work I really admired. And so I reached out to them, and we began talking about the idea of making an animation reel, that we could use as like a little trailer. And, a few $100s later, as well as some months later, we had our trailer, animated by Alejandro Leos, that was the animator, and myself. I did a couple of scenes, one major scene, and then I did all of the coloring and shading, and Alejandro obviously did all of the talented animation. And with our theme song crafted by B, we had a 30-second reel ready to share. And now came step 3, probably the most important. It's either this one or the last step, but this one is very, very important. Promotion. To make something perform well, people need to see it. So you have to promote it. So, on November 25th, we dropped Roswell's first trailer on YouTube, Instagram, pretty much all of our socials, which was the animation reel I previously mentioned. And in doing so, the trailer did pretty well. It did exceptionally well for us, especially for just starting out a few months ago. But to keep up with the hype, I pretty quickly realized that Kyle, who is our social media manager, was going to run out of the content I had saved up for the past couple months. I had done concepts of the characters, backgrounds, whatever. But to get posts out 3 times a week, I was going to need more artists on the team to help me produce art, as fast as possible. So I reached out to Noah, the original Roswell storyboarder that I mentioned earlier. And he's been a longtime friend for like 5 years, almost half a decade. Well, no, that is half a decade. Okay. And Noah, of course, accepts the offer. And Roswell has now found a concept artist. With Noah and I doing a lot of pieces for their Instagram and the TikTok and everything, Kyle could promote Roswell and begin our journey to craft a fan base. We began promoting on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit. We even started a Discord. And, with the semi-small fan base now established, it was time for step 4. And it was time to find the storyboarders who would bring the script to life. And so, I sent out a casting call for storyboarders, and after going through like a ton of submissions, Roswell and, myself, really, I found two really talented artists, and they had very impressive portfolios. Yamna Hawk and Santiago Flores. Yamna has worked in a couple of things. One, like a mainstream movie, she was the lead animator on that. I believe it's called The Glass Worker. I'll put it on the screen if I can remember, and I'll drop all the links below, obviously, so you can check it out. But very talented artists that I got on the team. I was very excited. And, after discussing a payment plan that, I'll talk about in a little bit, they got to work pretty quickly. And so with the boarding process going steadfast, I knew that our next step was to find voice actors. Because how are they going to line up the boards and do all the timing without the voices? So, I once again did a casting call for the voice actors on all of Roswell's social medias. And this is when Roswell really began to boom, because posting those casting calls on TikTok got I think 200,000 views. Not only did it bring in a ton of voice acting talent, but it also brought people who quickly became fans of the work that we had produced and wanted to help support our show. So, even though there were some people who were like, I'm not a voice actor, but I really like the way the show looks, and, they'd comment, they'd like, they'd follow. It was really cool to see this. And, after a couple of weeks of reading thousands of emails, literal thousands of emails, going through every voice reel and, animation reel and commercial reel, I really found the main cast that I was very excited about. One in particular I was really giddy about getting was Dawn Bennett. So you might have seen this voice actor. She's in a ton of stuff. One of being my favorite show, Attack on Titan. So that was really, really cool for me to get as, just a small creator. She's also in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. She's in Fortnite, God of War, a ton of stuff. Spider-Man 2 that just recently came out. So Roswell was finally on its way to really becoming a reality. We had voice actors, storyboarders, concept artists, social media manager. We had all of these things. And, on December 18th, 2023 of this year, we had our first table read. And so we did our first recording for Roswell, and it was so much fun. All of the voice actors really knew the characters. In particular, the main trio's voice actors, especially Nisa, played by Chicky Kalugas, Josh, played by Josh Rabina, and Leighton, played by CJ Heineman. They really felt like true teenage friends. And recording together really helps that natural flow of bouncing off of each other rather than recording in private. So, just a little tip there if you want to write that down for any artists who do want to do a show. I would 100% doing a live session. I recommend that 100%. Whether it be in Discord, Microsoft Teams, Google Teams, whatever it is, Google Meet, Zoom, I would absolutely do that because people bounce off each other so much better, when they're there, instead of off, like on a green screen somewhere like it's Marvel. And, so now comes present day, December 29th, 2023. I'm writing this right now at like 6 a.m. Well, recording it. And nearly 5 whole years since Roswell's first webcomic was published. Now, the last step, and yeah, it is the biggest step, most important step after your promotion. Pretty much promotion, how well your promotion does decides how well this next step is going to go, and that is funding. Now, I know that's a pretty scary word for a lot of people. A lot of people, once they get to this point, they're like, holy shit, we kind of need money to get this done. And so, over many months, the Roswell team and I crafted like 20 more perks for people who decide to donate to the project. Simple things like a custom Discord role, all the way to things like posters, soundtrack copies, appearing in the pilot, a custom Funko Pop of one of the characters, and like a ton more. And this step isn't quite complete for me. Roswell's crowdfunding starts on January 1st, 2024, next year. So in like 5 days, and it's actually on the 5-year anniversary of the Roswell comic. After 5 years, Roswell has finally become the animated show I've always dreamed of. And, this crowdfunding is really going to determine whether Roswell ever hits the big screen or not. So, please, if you like this video and you want to support Roswell, please donate to our fundraiser on Indiegogo on January 1st. It's very sad to see how little animation there is lately. You know, a lot of things get canceled, like Infinity Train, a dead, no, it wasn't called Dead City. You know, there's just a bunch of shows that just never get made or they get canceled because a lot of people don't really think of animation as a medium, but more as like a genre, I guess. You know, a lot of people don't take it seriously. And, you know, it's very important to me to get this out there. You know, it's obviously a dream that I've had, as well as a lot of other people on my team have had to really get this going. You know, and if you can't donate to the GoFundMe, or well, the Indiegogo, you know, tell your friends, tell your family about the show, share it to your social media, you know, like, comment, follow, subscribe on all of the Roswell social medias. It helps a ton, and I'll link them all in the description for those of you who do want to do it. You know, overall, it takes a lot of time, work, effort, love, and a whole lot of damn money to make a pilot, let alone an entire show. You know, and I hope sharing my experience and journey in making Roswell helped anyone who's on the fence about creating their own story and really taking that leap of faith. You know, if you love something, risk everything for it. And don't forget to like the video, support the channel and Roswell as a whole. We now have a Patreon. I'll link that in the description as well. You can join us for just $1 a month and receive access to early posts, exclusive content, and behind-the-scenes looks at Roswell, as well as a ton of art advice. So, you know, if you want to learn a little bit more about the story, learn a little bit more about art, or just want more tips, tutorials, go ahead and join over there. And thanks so much for watching.